Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to take a look back at week 2 of the 2020 season of the Overwatch League, the Philadelphia homestand, and look at how I did in my picks and also how the teams did, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the unfortunate thing is we're at a point in time where we only have the one homestand going on right now because of the matches that are not happening currently in China because of the whole coronavirus situation. We do now have we know what's going to happen with those. It's going to be made up in Seoul in week 6 and 7, I believe. And maybe also add some of them to the Seoul homestand in week 5. But we're not going to be seeing any of the teams until then that we're supposed to play in some of those things. So we're not going to see any Pacific teams, I believe, until week 5. So we have a while to go. We're just going to be watching the Atlantic teams play. So we're going to get pretty familiar with the way the Atlantic teams play, I think. Which is ironic as well, because there's another team we haven't even seen play. I mean, there's a number of teams we haven't seen play, of course, in the Pacific, but we also haven't seen the Atlanta Reign play yet, and they don't play until week 4 when it's in Houston, which is, I think, really weird. They won't play until that week, and then they're going to be a team that's going to be really far behind. So I don't know why we're not getting any of those games until now, but it is what it is. Let's take a look, though. Let's stop talking about this, and let's take a look back at what happened this past week. So, boom, here are my picks from this past week. I did pretty well, 4-0 overall. I thought this week was kind of easy to pick, though some of the teams I expected to be better, I actually was a little more disappointed. I was actually kind of surprised in exactly how some of these matches went. So let's talk about them. The first one was the Florida Mayhem against the Houston Outlaws. Houston Outlaws were really bad this weekend, and apparently they were sick. A lot of the players were sick. Linkser was sick. There was like a flu or something going on in the team, and a lot of them were just really sick, which could have impacted why they played so poorly. But the coaching staff took full credit that they didn't prepare the team enough, and that's why they lost. So they basically said it wasn't the players, it was us. There were a lot of things that I thought happened that just weren't really smart. The first day, they were running a lot of Lucio Brig, and it didn't work, and they just kept running it. The second day, the big thing that I really had an issue with was the fact that they just kept running Hydration Blase. And like I said, obviously, if they were sick, then that's a big thing. But they had nobody to shut down Corey. They were doing nothing to stop Corey on the second day, and I think that really was the big thing that I think just kind of derailed them, is they couldn't stop Corey, and he was just obliterating them. He was running through that team like it was his job. It was easy for him, and it was really, really hard to watch. I assume if you're a Houston Outlaws fan, it wasn't very fun. So I have to say, I think that we need to see more out of these Outlaws. I'm interested to see more next week when they're not sick, or whenever their next matches are. I don't know if they play next week. Whenever they're healthy and they are better prepared. I'm curious to see what this team is. I'm not going to say it's doom and gloom for this team yet after 1 week of play, but it's certainly not a good sign to see them struggling like this. This badly at this point in the season. It's always something where I would expect them to have to start fixing what's going on, because it's not pretty. That is for sure. But they, of course, played the Florida Mayhem. We'll start with the Florida Mayhem. They actually looked very, very good on Saturday. There was a stat, I believe, in 3 maps. Gargoyle, I think, died twice, which is really, really good. The record for a match, at least like a format match, I believe is Animo at 4, but I think it some other people may have tied that, but I believe the record is Animo at 4 for least amount of deaths in a 4-map match. 3 maps, 2 deaths is the probably also the record. So that gives you an idea of how good that is. He played really, really well. I thought Korean played really well as well. They didn't play any Fate at all on Saturday. I don't know about Sunday, but on Saturday, Korean looked really, really good. I thought the team looked really good, but they also played Houston. Houston didn't really do anything, so it was kind of a one-sided affair. Where things got interesting to me for Saturday was actually the Washington versus Fusion match, because I actually think it was a pretty bad match. I thought the Justice played well, but made a lot of mistakes as well. But I thought they were playing pretty well. Where the Fusion, I think, made a lot of sloppy plays. They made a lot of mistakes. But they're just so good that they really just kind of forced things to happen, and they happened. They didn't play Fury on Saturday. I don't know if they played him on Sunday. I didn't actually get the chance to watch the Sunday match, but I saw what happened, which I'll talk about that here in a little bit. I was a little surprised just by how dominant they were, but we'll look at that here in a second. I think it's a very interesting thing that we're seeing with these players, just because I think that what's going on is we have a team of players with a lot of veteran experience on the Philadelphia Fusion. Carpe, Sato, Poco have been around for 3 seasons. Ivy was with Toronto last season. Funny Astro was with Atlanta for a time last season, but he's pretty new. And then Alarm, of course, was a rookie. And then you're looking at a team like Florida, which you have the experience with BQB and Gargoyle and Gangnam Jin. BQB, Gargoyle, and Chris. But Gangnam Jin is a full rookie. Yaki's a rookie. Korean didn't really play at all last season. And you have 2 teams in very similar positions, where I think the Philadelphia Fusion are the better team, and it was a really good match, though one-sided. But back to the Fusion against the Justice. It was a very weird game. It was a very sloppy game. Corey is incredible, and that's really what I've learned from this weekend. Like, I knew Corey was good. Corey is insanely good. He is one of the best players in the league. You know, I think one of the things that with last season is when you get all these role stars that you give out, some of it's really weird because there's ones that are like really, really, really obvious that you get, and you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Like, this is something that I would expect people to get, or it's just like I'm really trying to like figure out what I'm saying. Like with the role stars, it's very weird because there's people who you would expect to get it because they were dominant the entire season. People like Sinatra, people like Gushue, people like Ding, where they were just dominant the entire season on the role. But damage in particular is a weird one because you didn't really see a lot of damage dealers and damage players playing damage heroes until you got to late in the season, right? And Corey late in the season was just so good, and that's why he got the role star. And I just think that Corey really has just been on the up and up and up and up ever since, because he has those resources now to be able to play the way he wants to play, to be able to play and just pop off in an insane way. And it really showed this weekend against Philly. He had some really, really great plays, even though they lost. Against the Houston Outlaws, I mean, he was uncontested. So that was a really, 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 really crazy thing to watch from him. It was wild. But the Mayhem vs. Fusion game is the last game we'll talk about. I talked about the Justice Outlaws already. The Mayhem Fusion was very one-sided for the Fusion, which I thought was good for the Fusion. I think that they struggled a decent amount against the Justice. They looked sloppy. They looked uncoordinated at times. A lot of questions. Why were they playing Poco over Fury? They were always running IV over EQO. It just kind of brings up a number of questions of what they're doing. But they kind of corrected that against the Mayhem. Very dominant against the Mayhem. I think the Mayhem are still a good team. I think they're going to be a pretty good team. But I think ultimately, like, when you look at the Fusion and the way that they played, I think it was really, really good. And I think the Fusion have a lot of really talented players on this roster. And I think that ultimately we're going to see a lot from them going forward. I think they're going to be one of the top teams. But really what I've kind of learned over the past 2 weeks is that the Atlantic Conference is not a joke anymore. It's not a laughing stock of a conference. NYXL and Fusion are really, really good. They are both right now tied for the best record in the league. Granted, they've also played more matches than most other teams in the league. The only teams that they have played the same number of matches as are the Titans, the Fuel, the Spitfire, and the Outlaws. They're the only other team. Oh, and sorry, the Mayhem, Justice, Eternal, and Valiant. But, you know, a lot of teams are not 2-0. There's only 3 teams that are 2-0, but NYXL and Fusion are 2-0 plus 5, while the Titans are 2-0 plus 4. And then you have like Florida and Washington, who looked good, who looked like teams that are definitely going to be challenging people. The Defiant obviously beat the Eternals, so we don't know a ton about the Defiant, but I think the Defiant looked okay. And I think with some more practice, they'll look pretty good. But basically, we're not looking at a laughing stock of a conference anymore in the Atlantic Conference. Like last season, they were really bad, and it was just kind of an embarrassing thing to watch. But this season, I see a lot of potential. We haven't even seen Atlanta play, and I think Atlanta's going to be a really good team. I think we're really looking at a really good conference in the Atlantic Conference as compared to the way they were last season. I still think the Pacific Conference as a whole is going to be the stronger conference from the top to bottom. But I think the Atlantic Conference is going to be better than it was last season. But speaking of the conferences, let's take a look at those standings that I was just talking about a little bit. You can see them for yourself. It's a little hard to do this, of course, because Shanghai, Guangzhou, Seoul, Chengdu, Hangzhou, none of them have played over in the Pacific Conference. But in the Atlantic Conference, we've seen most of the teams play. The only team we haven't seen play is Atlanta, so we have a decent idea of where things are starting to stack up. I expect Atlanta to move up from where they are right now. And teams haven't played the same number of games. Toronto and Boston have only played 1. Everyone else in the Atlantic, except for Atlanta, has played 2. So it's a little unfair to kind of look at these really closely right now, but I'm interested in what we're seeing right now. I really like the direction that I'm seeing a lot of these teams go, and I'm curious to see how it goes going forward, because I think this is a really good sign for the season, just with the way this homestand went and the way that we look at the standings right now. I just think it looks like it's going to be a good season with a lot of really good competition. And it's not going to be like last season where it's just a complete runaway by the top 3 teams. And really by the end of the season, just by the one team. I think this is going to be a really good season. I think it's going to be really close, and I'm really excited for it. But that's everything I have for you today. Sorry if the video was a little odd. I'm very tired because I stayed up way too late last night, and I paid the price. But if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Hopefully the next video will not be as weird. But let me know down below your thoughts on anything that happened this past weekend. I'd love to hear it, but I'm going to get out of here. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Hope you all have a wonderful week. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.